Welcome. Today, you're stepping into the role of a subsea welder diver working out here in the Gulf of America. Beneath this vessel is a field of oil and gas facilities off the coast of Texas that have produced energy for years. Look at the screen in front of you. Use your controller to select the highlighted area on the map. This part of the Gulf is busy. Pipelines, subsea frames, and wells. Some of it is still active, some of it isn't. The frame you'll work on today is out of service. We're decommissioning it so it doesn't become a hazard and so we can make room for new subsea infrastructure in this area. On the left, this old frame can corrode, collapse, snag fishing gear, and make it harder to install anything new nearby. On the right, you see what we're working toward, a safer, cleaner patch of seabed, ready for future pipelines, manifolds, or even new low-carbon projects in the deepwater Gulf. Other teams have already isolated this structure from live lines and clamped a lifting pad to this brace. Your mission is simple and important: weld this pad to the brace so the rigging team can lift this section safely away. That lift helps clean up the site and open space for future installations. Use the buttons to look at the object from different angles, and make sure you have a clear view of the area we'll be welding today. Good. Remember this joint. When we're underwater, this is your focus. One weld that makes this section lift ready and one step closer to being removed from the Gulf. Let's get you suited up and ready. Follow the glowing marks to the locker room door. This is your gear. I'll highlight what you need. When something glows, reach out and grab it. First, grab the wetsuit. Here in the Gulf of Mexico, the water isn't freezing, but at working depth it's still cool. The wetsuit helps insulate you so you can focus on the job instead of the temperature. Next, pick up your fins. These give you grip on wet steel and protection from sharp edges on the structure. Now choose your heavy work gloves. These are thick enough to protect you from abrasive surfaces and help when handling the welding tools and the structure itself. Put on your harness. This is the backbone of your dive rig. It's how your umbilical and EGS, your emergency gas supply or bailout bottle, attach to you. Now, grab your diving helmet. This is more than a mask. It gives you gas, protects your head, and carries your communications, lights, and welding lens. Place the helmet on. Good seal. When you speak, dive control on the vessel hears you through this helmet. Your view, your voice, and your breathing all run through here. Pick up the EGS bottle and clip it to your harness. If anything goes wrong with your main gas from the surface, this bottle gives you enough time to get out of trouble. Every commercial. Now, let's get to the deck and pick up the rest of essential tools and equipment needed for a subsea welding procedure. This is where every subsea job starts, on deck, looking down at the water, knowing your work will happen where most people never go. Look over the edge and take in your workplace. Now turn and look at the umbilical. This multi-line hose bundle carries your breathing gas, communications, sometimes hot water, and often power or data. It's your lifeline to the surface. Tap on the hose to attach it to the back of your helmet. Once you're in the water, this is what keeps you breathing and talking. Managing this line around steel, ropes, and equipment is a big part of the job. Pick up the welding stinger. This is what you'll use to run your weld today. On some jobs in the deepwater Gulf, divers use tools like this to weld new supports for fresh pipelines or new manifolds. Today, you'll use it to help retire an old frame. Grab an electrode. These are built for wet welding. Take the inspection camera. Look at the screen. This is the edge you'll weld, from this lower notch to this upper notch. Look back at the model, you will see a red highlighted path on it. That line indicates the path you need to weld. Feel free to look into the mirror behind you, then walk to the marked spot and look at the sea below. Press and hold the meta button to recenter. Look at the canvas to familiarize yourself with the control. You're now in the same environment your weld will live in. Cool, blue, and full of life. Look up to see the underside of the vessel, and then look down to see the darkness you'll be working in. This is your descent route. Leaving the surface and heading down to the structures you help keep safe. Follow the glowing markers until you see the structure where you will be welding. As you move, notice the crossover rope running beside you. Divers use lines like this to guide themselves from one work area to the next, moving hand over hand and always keeping their umbilical in mind, so every journey underwater has a purpose rather than just a drift. There it is. An old pipe that served its time and now needs to come out. See that yellow pad on the brace attached to the pipe? That's where your weld will go. Move to the highlighted marker and swim closer to the pipe. Take a second and look around. This is your office. Not many people can say their workstation has this view. See this yellow pad? Another team clamped it here. Your weld will decide whether we can trust it as a lifting point. We need it solid so this segment can be hoisted off the seabed and this spot can be ready for the next phase of development. Remember the images you saw during the briefing, and position yourself close to the pipe so you can reach the welding area. Grab the electrodes and the welding stringer. Bring your electrode tip to the start of the highlighted weld line and press the primary trigger to weld when the tool... This is the moment. You're adding something permanent to this structure, something everyone topside is counting on. It's part of a larger story of cleaning up old infrastructure and getting this field ready for what comes next. A quarter of the welds on this joint are now in place, your work tracing its way along the steel. Now move to the next highlighted section and carry the weld forward. Now the brace pad sits locked to the pipe, your weld tying them together as one. It's time for the hook to be drawn in and secured to that pad, turning this spot into a solid lift point. Follow the same process you used before and run your weld along the hook where it meets the pad, completing the connection. Nice work. That weld is your signature on this job. With this weld tying the brace and pipe together, the crane can take the load and lift this frame clear of the Gulf floor, making room for what comes next. From corroded steel on the seabed to clean deck and a cleared site, that's the path your weld supports. Decommissioning like this is how we retire old assets and make room for what comes next in the deepwater Gulf. As a subsea welder, this becomes your world. You work in places most people never see, tackle problems that can't be solved from the surface, and help leave the Gulf with safer structures and cleaner water, ready for advanced technologies. Some days you'll be cutting and removing equipment from the seafloor, on others, you'll be installing state-of-the-art systems that keep energy flowing to the coast. If the mix of hands-on work and underwater exploration appeals to you, this is a career worth considering.